You're tuned into the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla and Andrew Yagi. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go.
Welcome to episode 48 of the It's Real podcast. I'm Kayla Calendar and I'm a mortgage lender.
And I'm Andrew Yagi and I'm a real estate agent.
Good morning, Andy. How's it going today?
Hey, I'm doing really good, Kayla. It's a beautiful day, kind of, a mixed bag of weather between all of the rain we've been getting, and but had a nice morning. I've started working with a new flight student last week. Actually, a kid who is kind of a family friend who I took him kind of for a Young Eagle flight probably 4 or 5 years ago. And he's just had, a dream of getting out there and flying and maybe flying for the airlines one day. And so kind of fun that he's going to be a senior in high school and we've just started flying together. And it's even more fun to find, someone who's that age, who's motivated enough to get up and go fly at 5 or 5:30 in the morning because they have so many other activities. That's pretty rare today.
That is rare. Have you taken on students before?
I have. So, I've got a passion for aviation. And so I ended up getting my flight instructor certificates about a year and a half ago. And so I mostly work with people that are friends or, especially some of the guys that I'm friends with that, hey, everyone's busy with their families. We don't have a lot of time to get together, but hey, we want to work on an instrument rating. So, hey, let's fly to Nashville for the weekend and let's train along the way and let's go have fun too.
Wow, that's awesome. Gosh. Well, maybe you can. My husband said one of his bucket list items is to learn how to fly. So I said, hey, Andy Yagi can help. So
well, we should take Taryn on a little discovery flight.
Yeah, right. You should. I love it. And the dogs. The dogs.
Yes. Yeah.
How was your weekend, Andy?
Yeah, it was good. It was pretty low key. Spent some time out at Otter Tail Lake and just kind of enjoying some family time, a little bit of rain and, not the warmest weekend, but it was kind of a nice, what I'll call a first lake weekend for us.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, same. A lot of rain around here. It's preventing our landscaping from getting done, but that's, first world problems. But we were out at the lake. We went into Perham and got some flowers. You know what it's like with the lake home. You're trying to just get it where it needs to be for summer. And we took the dogs out. It was a quiet lake weekend. And sometimes those are the ones that are most needed. So
yes. Wonderful. Yeah. That's really great. What's new in the Fargo-Moorhead area? And what are you seeing with mortgage?
So right now we've seen applications. And when I speak about I'm speaking of my team today. So our applications are down a little bit, but our accepted offers, our active files, our purchase agreements, our people basically confirming, hey, let's go ahead and refinance. We have seen such a ramp up of active files. We had more purchase agreements and refis accepted in the month of May than we had applications, which is extremely unusual, but so welcome because to me, that shows that some of these clients that have been on the fence, some of these clients that maybe weren't finding inventory, they're now finding these homes. They're committing to, hey, I'm willing to take this step. So that is positive energy for us. This week, the jobs report comes out. So we are, hoping to see positive results from that. If there's less jobs added, that's good for mortgage rates. So we will see. That comes out the first Friday of every month, but rates are at currently 3-month lows, 7.07 right now. You'll see they're down. The green, if anyone ever sees this, the green means that they're down. So 0.04, a little bit better. So trucking right along, pretty steady. They've kind of ranged around 7 for quite some time. And I'll comment on FHA. It's about 3/8 to a quarter lower. But we're seeing a lot of people, take the leap and move forward. How about on your end?
Yeah, I would say what you're experiencing, I've seen some of the same. So like May started off, it was just gangbusters. I mean, it was like, wow, all of a sudden people were really excited to buy and sell. And we saw a lot of activity. We saw offers over asking price. There was just a lot going on. And I would say it's it's been a little bit touch and go since then, Kayla. Just because I don't know. I think that, kind of as rates have, gone up and gone back down a little bit, I think there's been a little bit of cause for pause for a lot of people. I was looking, so you talk about the mortgage rates. I was looking kind of at the activity level and looking at the market stats. And so looking at Fargo, so, the number of listings, and I'm going to just jump down here. There's actually more inventory in your market right now. So you get about 3.29 months supply of homes, keeping in mind a balanced market's about 6 months. So still favoring sellers, but more, about 38% more inventory than a year ago. We're seeing, of course, average number of days on market, has gone up. So homes are sitting a little bit longer. And then, if we look at, sold listings year to date. So we've seen, like in your market, about 5% more homes sell this year than last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of interesting to see.
Yeah.
Kind of the disparity in my more immediate market in the Fergus
Yeah.
Falls area. We have a little bit more inventory, but still just kind of 1.8 months supply of homes. It's 30% more homes than last year, but it's not great. Sold homes, we've actually sold a few less homes in our market, down about 7% year over year. So it's kind of we'll call it the tale of two markets. And again, the thing that plagues us where I'm at is a lack of new construction, which you guys have a tremendous amount of.
Yeah, and even just hearing first-time homebuyers wanting to explore new construction, it's absolutely possible. Some of these first-time homebuyers, some of them are making six figures sometimes. Some of them, even without making, a huge salary, they're able to get into a newer construction. It might be more cookie cutter. It might not have all the upgrades, but, they're getting a tax abatement for the first few years. They're getting to customize the home that they prefer. And so we're seeing a lot of activity with new construction, even if you're not a repeat or building $1 million home. There's a lot of builders in town that can offer a more basic, less expensive option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like that. I was just looking really quick. I came across another article really quick. We'll see if I can get it to pop up. It was in the Inman talking about if you build it, business will come. And just kind of talking about from an agent standpoint about market share, but just really driving home the fact that inventory shortages are one of the leading hurdles for eager buyers in today's real estate market. And so really, as more new construction pops up, it talks about the fact that new home sales are estimated to rise by nearly 14%. So for those that are ready to capitalize on it. And so one thing we're doing in our office, Kayla, like our passion, and I know your passion too, is to help people reach their real estate goals. And we really want to make a mark on the community locally. So we're actually working at putting a spec house up to kind of, sample the market a little bit and kind of get some feedback, try out kind of our vendors, our local contractors, and just kind of see what would that look like on a larger scale. Because again, looking at stats like this, hey, you really benefit. Your clients really benefit in the Fargo-Moorhead area, having a lot of inventory and a lot of options, a lot of new construction options. And I mean, I get emails every week from all of the home builders in Fargo too, and it's just awesome to look and say, hey, if I had buyers, I could go and we could look at any number of these home builders, and they'd probably each have 4 or 5 options for us to look at.
Right.
We really lack that in my marketplace.
Right. Do you feel like that will change ever in your market?
It will if we have our way and, and partnering with some other people, kind of work to create some change. But really, housing, I think, is multifaceted. And we really need about 4 or 5 groups to be working on housing and providing options and really addressing the shortage. Because without housing, there's no real way, like for our community in our area, to grow.
Yeah.
Especially, how are you going to attract employers and attract manufacturers and jobs if you don't have any place for people to live?
Right. Exactly. I'd be curious to see how that plays out in your neighborhood, because that would be so great for the city. New construction, new jobs. Like it's high tides raise all ships. So.
Mm-hmm. Kayla, I came across kind of an interesting article as well as I was going through an Inman email the other day, and it talked about sellers are cutting prices at record pace to combat softening demand, and just talks about how in some ways there's sluggish home buyer activity. It's pushed sellers to slash their prices at a rate unseen since November of 2022. What do you make of that?
I've seen some homes in my neighborhood, maybe I brought this up to you, that have sat for like a year. And I think at some point, and this is my own opinion, I'm not a realtor, but with values, you know a lot more than I do. However, I think so many people realize, you know what, this isn't the same market. I might need to, cut my prices to be able to get this, off of my debt. There's people that have moved out of their home and the home is sitting there vacant. They're paying a mortgage, they're potentially paying, some type of electricity, water, sewer, whatever it may be. And I think at some point they're realizing that this is a different market. And in order to, I'd rather, get $30,000, $40,000 less than continue to pay a mortgage. And that also impacts when you're applying for a new home. If you've got another mortgage on your credit, at some point people can't take that next step and move on or move up or move out until they remove that debt. So that's what I make of that. How about you?
Yeah, really, really good question. And I think, obviously it depends on the marketplace and where you're at. But
Yeah.
I have, of course, seen, more price cuts as we've kind of moved into the market. And again, I've been very surprised by some properties that I thought would have moved right away, are kind of sitting and not a lot of activity. Even, a particular property I listed that I had a couple of people reach out, well, why are you listing that property so cheap?
Mm,
And which always makes us second guess ourselves. But all of a sudden, we don't have activity, and we're dropping
yeah,
the price, and may have to entertain additional price cuts. Hopefully not, but I think that it's just kind of the perfect storm, kind of like this article
yeah.
talks about. The sticky mortgage rates and inflation.
Mhm.
Really has been affecting people. So if it doesn't make absolute sense for someone to make a move if they don't have to do something, that's kind of where
Well,
we're at. And I think some of that's reflected in some of the market numbers that I was sharing a little bit as well.
and I think too, inflation, just in general, the cost of everything going up, just everything. I think people are hesitant, they're scared. But, one of the things that I always, hone in on, talk about with my clients is these buyers that are also sellers. So you got a house to sell, a house to buy. Andy, there's so many reasons why they should get rid of their 2-3% rate. They're scared to do it, right? They're at this unicorn rate of 2-3%, maybe 4%. They don't want to go to 6-7%. But when you speak with a lender should be breaking down your total scenario and saying, okay, you're paying 2 to 3% over here on your mortgage. Yes, it's at a higher balance, but you'd be surprised how many people are paying 20 to 25% on a credit card with thousands of dollars. They have a $50,000 car loan between 8% and 24%. They've got a HELOC that's at a variable rate. And so a lot of lenders that take the time to sit down and talk to a client about what's called a blended rate, to say, here's what you're paying here now, but look at all this debt that you have that's at this much higher rate than your mortgage. And to say, what does it look like if you sold your home, paid off all this higher debt, and then took that 6-7% rate? And for some people, they don't even realize that that's their cash flow, that's how it works. And so it's incredibly important that you meet with a lender, a financial advisor, and you talk about those things, because you would be surprised how many people are carrying such a debt load at such a higher rate than their mortgage would be on a new home.
And why do you think people just sit there and carry it, or just take it, so to speak? Do you think it's just like, do you think people are just paralyzed, or, it's out of sight, out of mind? I'm making my payments. It is what it is. Or is it a lack of financial literacy? Or, why are people not more proactive, in kind of having those conversations and making those adjustments?
I think it's just lack of knowledge. I think they just think, okay, I got this really low rate, I can't get rid of it. But it's so amazing when I've talked to people and I share these things, they are almost just shocked. They're like, I had no idea. There's no education on it. I mean, unless you're following people on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, or sitting down with a lender, like having that conversation, the media isn't talking about it. Your friends, your family, your colleagues probably aren't talking about it. The media splashes so much about, rates were so low and rates are high and inflation and all these negative things, that people almost become numb and they don't even stop to say what could make sense. But I had a call this week with a girl, and we talked for an hour. She never applied, she never did anything, but we just talked. And I shared with her some advantages of her scenario and some disadvantages. And at the end of the call, she said, I have more clarity now than ever. I don't know what route I'm going to take, but I at least know all my options. And I think people just think a mortgage is just something simple. Like you go get a car loan, no big deal. But a true mortgage advisor is going to be reviewing everything for you, walking you through the good, the bad, the ugly, and educating you for you to make the decision. It's more about a rate. The comment is rate is overrated. And if we can kind of educate our clients more, that's for them to then decide once they have all that information. But most people they just don't have the knowledge.
Sure. No, I can appreciate that. Speaking of rates, Kayla, I came across kind of another article as I was out, just kind of going through daily emails and the like. And this particular one says it's not going to be pretty. COVID or home buyers face huge rate jump and due because adjustable rate mortgages are due to reset for many borrowers.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pay for the article because I don't have a Bloomberg subscription, but I'm guessing you maybe can clue us in and maybe fill in the blanks a little bit.
Yeah. So during the times of rates are low, rates are 2, 3, 4, there were probably there were individuals that took adjustable rate mortgages thinking I'm going to be out of my house before 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I'm going to be, moving. I'm going to pay it off. Or, hey, rates aren't going to get that high. It'll be fine. Look how low they are now. So I personally did not do many adjustable rate mortgages at all. The clients that I assisted were doing 15 or 30-year, some 20-year fixed rates and taking advantage of those low rates. They weren't getting, I don't want to say greedier. They weren't saying, I want lower. But I think there were some individuals that were put into either some maybe wrong programs, things that didn't fit them. And so now they have this really low rate, but they essentially, an adjustable rate is after so many years, it can adjust to current market rates. Sometimes there's caps. Sometimes it can only adjust by, let's say, 2% the first year, 1% every year thereafter. But some individuals made those decisions to choose a product and a rate that may have looked attractive at the time. And I'm sure it was very attractive, actually, but that only was short-lived. And so those are probably, I wasn't sure the percentage there that article showed, but it looks like there's a good amount of individuals that might be up against higher rates. And then you add that to inflation, and now people are going to be experiencing a lot of stress that they weren't with that adjustable.
Sure. So it says here that there are about 1.7 million owners of homes that bought since 2019 with an adjustable rate mortgage, and these loans averaging about 1 million to finance more expensive properties. So this is talking about the higher end of the market, especially, and that 70% of the people who have those adjustable rates that have maybe a more expensive home are really starting to stress.
Well, and also we experienced, I'll be very honest with you, we've had a lot of lenders and realtors drop out in the last couple of years, Andy, you know that. And there's a lot of lenders that, they'll kind of do whatever they can. There's some slimy lenders out there. There's some slimy realtors, and there's some incredible humans out there that are really living for our clients' best interest.
Like you.
Thank you. And likewise. And I don't want to scare people to say, hey, there's slimy people out there, but I've seen loan estimates that have, for example, a balloon payment. And that means that it can come due. It's not just adjusting, it's due. And I've lost deals to other lenders because the client sees this small rate and they think 5-year balloon, it's fine. I'll refinance by then. But as rates have continued to do this, they've waited hoping they come down. And now people are at this obstacle in their life where, do you sell? Do you take that higher hit? And it's not a great situation, but that's where we other lenders have to help navigate and help people that come to us in these scenarios.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Well, it's going to be interesting to kind of see how the rest of the year shakes out, especially with things like that, with some adjustable rate mortgages coming due or shifting, whether it's a balloon or the rates adjusting or whatever that looks like. It's also going to be interesting, Kayla, looking at the fact that we're in an election year. And housing affordability is going to be a big issue. And in this kind of Fox News little clip, maybe we'll watch just a little bit of it. I know you sent it to me and you've maybe seen it. I haven't seen it yet, but that it's a big issue to 91% of Gen Z adults. So let's see.
91% of them, according to Redfin, say housing affordability will be important in how they vote in November, even topping other issues like abortion and gun rights. There's right now from Miami, real estate investor and private equity fund manager Grant Cardone. Grant, good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
You know what? They don't want to live in their parents' basement forever. They would like their own place, but they can't afford it.
The worst time in my lifetime for someone to buy a home.
Yeah.
Down here in Florida, it costs about $400,000 for the average home. It'll cost about $51,000 with insurance, interest, taxes, property taxes, maintenance, and that's without a down payment. In New York or California, you guys are double that. So you're talking about Gen Z in New York paying $100,000 and they earn 38.
Well,
So Kayla, what do you make of that? I mean, so obviously we're lucky to live in the Midwest. And even though there are probably some people watching or listening to this that are across the country, so we're maybe a little bit insulated, but it's all relative because obviously they have larger wages in these marketplaces that they're talking about. Our wages are likely less or relative to the cost of a home. But what do you make of the affordability piece, and how important is it?
Rates are higher, obviously. So that's clearly something that's getting in the way of Gen Z, millennials a little bit as well. But, the average home price has gone up. I think they said 30% over the last 5 years. So, which is great if you're thinking of it as appreciation, but it's costing more for a buyer to purchase a home. And people are tapped out because of inflation. Inflation has now made home buying feel almost impossible. There's some articles that, share you need 20% down and you shouldn't own a home today. It's so expensive. And yet we hear, okay, if prices are going up, appreciation is going up. You're basically, it's forced savings when you own a home. And it's creating equity. It's creating money in your pocket just in a different way. But I think that Gen Z is really feeling this push. They're really feeling that they are tapped out. And this article talked about how the buck stops with Biden and that inflation is rates are 3 times higher than they were before he got in office. So this article talked about how Gen Z is really thinking about this when they're going into vote amongst, above the other issues such as abortion and gun control. So I thought it was interesting because I feel, and I'm saying I feel because I don't know, like in the past, a lot of people just voted for below the line, and I won't get into politics, but below the line issues, things that maybe weren't as big of a deal.
Sure.
But I think Gen Z is seeing, what this article is reflecting is they're saying, gosh, this is affecting my ability to start a family, to move on outside of my parents' basement, to start my life. And I think that that's what this article portrays.
I feel like you did dip into the politics a little bit, and I felt like I didn't know if I was looking at Kayla Callender or Tommy Lauren for a minute. But isn't she great?
Compliment.
Well, I think you're right on, and I also appreciate kind of the other graphic that you sent over, Kayla. Where it talked about where we talk about equity and the like, and so the average price home in the country of purchase today stands to grow in equity by about $83,000 in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So what do you stand to lose if you want to buy? Well, about $83,000 in equity by the look of it. And so I think that, but that's also a problem because affordability is an issue. However, I was also kind of encouraged to see and kind of found it to be a little bit interesting looking at this Redfin article talking about Gen Zers and young millennials taking out 40% of the U.S. mortgages in 2023. And Kayla, that's significant.
One of the things we talk about is, this or that, right? What we talked about before. It's you hear one thing over here, you see one thing over here. The media says this, but your 19-year-old friend just bought a house. Like there's so much information, and I don't want to say misinformation, but there's just so many ways to look at, is home buying for me? Will I make money? Will I spend money? What's the value? Should I rent? And I think, Andy, what we're saying is, okay, we just saw 2 different articles. I think that the whole point of seeing these articles and us sharing this today is it is more important now than ever to have the conversations with your teams, your lenders, your realtors, and find out for your unique scenario, does this make sense? For someone that has tons of debt, like we talked about at high rates, it makes sense for them to get rid of that mortgage. That's at 2-3%. For others that don't have any debt, it might not make sense. So I think that we're seeing so much noise in the media, good, bad, and different. And it's up to the consumer that's in their shoes to decide, does this make sense for me? And in order to get all that information and education, you need to talk to the right people. And that's you and me and your financial advisors and your insurance agents and everyone else that's involved.
Right. And I think the other difficult part is, again, Kayla, like not everybody wants to be educated. And I just always tell people that, hey, like if you take the time to sit down to find those trusted professionals, like let us help you. We're here as a resource. Things are going to go quicker. Things are going to go better. You might not realize the options are out there. I had a renter who's been out there and he really wants to buy a house, but he said right off the bat, I can't buy a house because my credit's not good enough. And well, how do you know that? Well, I don't know. I just don't think it is. So boy, he was able to talk with someone at his bank. And before you know it, he's qualified. He's ready to go. So surround yourself with good people, do your research, and don't just research on Google or look around online.
Please don't.
Sit down with someone and actually go to work, because home ownership may be more attainable than you think.
I think that's the common thing that I'm seeing is people come in, they're like, I don't know how it looks. And next thing I know, they're buying a house. And had they not had that conversation, they wouldn't be on their way to, home ownership and creating generational wealth.
Equity, Kayla, about 83,000 of it.
Equity. Yes, exactly. 83,000. I mean, it's right there in front of us, all the information. And when you sit down with people, I mean, you just want to be open and take that leap to get educated. It's okay to not know everything. I don't know everything and I have to Google stuff, but when it comes to my finances, I'm going to be sitting down with the professionals.
Amen. Well, we've run the gamut today, Kayla, and I think provided a lot of great information. So I think that puts a wrap on episode 48. Have a great rest of the weekend.
I will if you will.
We'll see you.
Bye.